What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Will, and this week have another fantastic conversation for you guys. This week we are talking to Cara Baskin. Kara's an ultra runner who lives in the Upper Valley of New Hampshire, and she's also a co-president of the Upper Valley Run Club. She's done a lot of great efforts, but she most recently went out in early September and set a shiny new FKT on the White Mountains 100. She set the overall women's time for the White Mountains 100 at a time of 34 hours and 12 minutes. Really incredible run. We talk all about that in this episode of the show. Other things, as you might be able to hear, but during this intro and during this conversation, I have a pretty raging head cold right now, and so I don't know if I'm at my peak conversationally, and I also probably sound pretty nasally. But Cara put up with me. It was very nice of her. Hopefully that's gone next episode. What else? Got this fancy new web camera for making video episodes, so that's fantastic. I know no one cares, but I'm excited that we're up in the video game on the podcast. I am still trying to figure out how to use it correctly. I think now during this intro I'm recording in 1080 p, but I think I was recording on 720p during the entire episode with Cara, so which is what my computer does. So I basically got nothing out of nothing out of the camera during the episode, but that's okay. We're learning how to do it. Also figuring out lighting. My lighting that I have to light up the room or light up my face is rather yellow once it's out of the daylight. So still figuring that out. And then also figuring out what to put in the background here. See, right now we've got this cool poster, but we've also got a television and like a kitchen table or whatever's over there, and a Moose Lock Ravine Lodge sign. So if you're not listening or if you're not watching the video version of the podcast, you're missing out. Go over to Spotify, go over to YouTube, watch the video version of the pod. It adds a whole new layer of experience, and hopefully in the coming weeks I will figure out how to actually use it correctly. What else? I realized that we never actually explained during the episode what the Whites 100 is, and I'm sure most people listening to this probably know, but I figured that since there might be new listeners to the pod, I should at least let people know roughly what the White Mountains 100 is. So the White Mountains 100 is the 100 miles or so of Appalachian Trail that goes through sort of the heart of the White Mountains. If you're sort of looking at the AT from a northbound perspective, then the White Mountains 100 starts at the base of Mount Moosilauke, and then you go north over Mount Moosilauke, over the Kinsman Ridge, over Franconia Ridge, through the Pemi, wilderness. You go over the Ethan Pond area down to 302 Crawford Notch area, and then you go up through the Prezzies, down to Pinkham Notch after you hit Madison, and then finally up and over the entire Wildcat Range. It's about 100 miles. It's about 34,000 feet of vertical gain. Up until this past summer, there were very few finishers of the White Mountains 100. I think there were like 5 maybe total, and the route really exploded this year with competition. And so it's super cool to see folks getting out there and slamming really awesome times on the Whites 100. Iconic, I think will be a really iconic route in short order, and kind of already is with the amount of attention it's getting. So, yeah, absolutely sick route. What else? Let me tell you about the sponsors for this week. If you're watching the video version, you already know right here. That's Infinite Nutrition. I think it's backwards, but whatever. Infinite Nutrition. It's a total nutrition powder. You mix it right into your water. It covers all of your endurance, hydration, and nutrition needs. I use Infinite because it's super customizable, super simple. Just one serving of Infinite every single hour, and I'm good to go on both hydration and nutrition. I've also lately been supplementing a ton with Infinite on my lifting and in my recovery. I've been really digging their nighttime recovery blend. It's got tryptophan to help you sleep, and a lot of electrolytes, carbs, potassium, protein to help you recover overnight. If you want to go try out Infinite, head on over to their website, which is in the show notes. Use code From the Backcountry, all one word, for 15% off your entire order. That includes their custom blends, high fructose blends, recovery mixes, protein powder, you name it. go try them out. Great company. And next, one more sponsor to tell you guys about here at the beginning of the episode. That is Burgeon Outdoor. Burgeon Outdoor, it's a local clothing company based right out of Lincoln and Gorham, New Hampshire. They hand stitch all their clothes right in Lincoln and Gorham, providing great jobs for the community, but also creating some really nice, some nice clothing pieces. I've been using their Alpha Direct 90 hoodie a ton for layering during the winter, and then during the summer, I plan on using it a lot for layering during camping. When you're in the sleeping bag and you need something ultra light that's also going to provide you a lot of warmth. It really excels in that area. So you want to try out Burgeon Outdoor, go give them a look. They have a store in Lincoln if you want to go check them out in person. It's a really cool spot. But also head on over to their website, which is also in the show notes, and check them out. And last sponsor is John G, but tell you about them later. For now, Cara, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, giving me your time, and I'll talk to y'all later. All right, peace. Oh, yeah. Here we are, back on the pod. Got a great episode today. Cara Baskin, welcome to the pod. I believe this is officially a second time on. You're officially a friend of the pod. How does that feel?
Feels so good. Thank you.
It's really what everyone is striving for in this world. Yeah. Unfortunately, Cara doesn't have a seltzer, so we were debating just canceling the show, but I will persevere. I've got the Hannaford cranberry lime going on. Yep.
Beautiful.
And that'll get us through. Also, for people watching on video, I actually have a camera now, so my background is still ridiculous, but the video quality should be a little higher. Mm-hmm. Any case, we're here to talk about the Whites 100, which was a while ago now, like
ancient
3
history.
Months ago. Yeah, but it was a sick effort. So 34 hours, 12 minutes. Took over 4.5 hours off the previous female FKT. Just tell me a little bit about like what is Whites 100 something that had been brewing for a while in your head? Like what brought you to wanting to do that route?
I think I heard about it sometime in 2024. Like, I don't know who mentioned it. Maybe it was Drummond. And I did no like training or planning that year, but the seed was kind of planted and it got the wheels turning a little bit. And I remember mentioning it to someone in my family, and like at that time, only 4 people had ever finished it. And I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if I attempted it. And that person was like, what makes you think you're going to be the 5th person? And I'm like, wait a second, I can do this. So that threw some ammunition into the endeavor.
Nothing will pump you up like someone telling you can't do it.
I know. I'm like, why not me? I train there all the time.
Right. And so once you decided to do it, like, did you give consideration to, like, did you think about unsupported, or did you always want to do it supported? Like, how did you decide, sort of the style you wanted to go about running it?
Yeah, I never considered unsupported. I don't think I'm an unsupported girl. I need a lot of support just to get through the day. And what really got me going for it was Drummond sort of setting up this event. Like, I didn't end up going out on the days that he had planned, but him like setting a date and like having this public list online, which I didn't realize was a public list, helped me commit to it. And so just started working towards it, and knew that over the years I had like enough experience in the Whites and like White Mountain community that I had sort of put myself into, that I could find enough support that I like really trusted and would help me get to the finish.
Yeah. I was watching that list over the summer because there's like 100 names on it. It was
So
kind of
many
crazy.
people. I was like, these people are not going to start. Anyone who doesn't live in New Hampshire, Vermont is not starting this. No way.
Do you know how many people ended up starting?
Um, so I did it before the event. Joe did it before the event. I think maybe 16 people ended up starting. So the list dwindled quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. That's still a lot for that route.
Totally. And a lot of people obviously had done it over the summer prior to my effort. So it got like a lot of attention in
Yeah.
2025.
And so was your plan originally to go out at the, during the time that Drummond had done it, or did you sort of know you were going to do it separately but around the same time?
No, I wanted to do it during his event.
Mhm.
Um, I thought it would give me some extra motivation, like knowing that it was a little more formal and there'd be other people out there and some like enthusiasm around it. Um, but the days leading up to that first weekend he set, the weather looked horrible. And there was like rain in the forecast, and I don't do well on wet rocks. Like obviously you don't want to be doing something that long with like added um like intensity or like obstacles. So I ended up seeing a really awesome weather window like 2 or 3 days before that weekend. And I was like, you know what? I have so much anxiety right now. Like I'm having chest pain. Like I cannot wait until like a couple days from now to see if he postpones it. And like, the days are
Mhm.
getting shorter, like the weather could be worse that weekend. So like I just need to take this into my own hands. And I just like switched the date and like totally like exploded my pacer and support plan and like rebuilt it.
Wow. Uh that's yeah, that had to be stressful sort of figuring out the logistics on the fly.
It was incredibly stressful. I started at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday, and like Tuesday night at like 6 p.m. I was like still putting puzzle pieces together. It was
Oh my god.
a lot.
And I saw that was it JP that gave you a house to sleep in the night before?
Yeah, he put me up in the Jackson Inn, which is so nice of him. I mean, I was like really stressed when I got there, but like I opened the door and I was like, oh, I can like sleep well in this bed. Like I am so close to the start. Like I can relax a little bit. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And so what did training look like sort of on the in the lead up to it?
Yeah. So I didn't train as much as I wanted to, but in retrospect, I guess it was enough, or like maybe I would have been faster if I trained more. Um, but I had a couple of key days in the summer, like leading up. Um, and actually, if you rewind probably 9 months before, my 35th birthday was like December 2024. And so I usually do like birthday miles, but that year I was like, oh, I'm going to do
Mm,
something different. So I decided to do 35,000 feet of vert in that week, which was like the most I had ever done in a week. And like went out to the whites every day. So that gave me like some inkling of what it would look like to do that amount of vert, which was similar to what it was during the White Mountain 100. Knowing that like I wasn't going to get injured doing that, and I still liked running and hiking after doing that. So um, that like prepped my legs a little bit and like made me feel comfortable with that kind of volume. Um, and then in the summer, I had a couple key days. I did like 26 miles out and back on Smarts and Cube, and
nice.
paced a friend in the Ouray 100 in Colorado that summer. So got some like overnight practice. Um, and I think the key, oh, and then I did Adams Vertical Day and Madison Gulf like the next day. So that was like a big weekend. Um, I tried to do a lot of like 10,000 foot weeks. And then I think I had three 15,000 foot weeks and two 20,000 foot weeks. So
Okay.
not like the most you've ever seen, but like pretty consistent. Um, and then my biggest weekend was doing MMD on a Saturday, which is about, a 50K, or it might have been 28 miles this year, and like 10,000 feet of vert.
Mhm.
And then on that route, I literally met Amber Constant on the trail. And I was like, what are you doing tomorrow? And she was like, nothing. And so then we went out and did the whole Pemi Traverse section together the next day. So that was another like 27, 28 miles and like 8,000 feet. So that ended up
Nice.
being like my peak weekend of training.
That's a great weekend of training. That's a and that I feel like that's also a pretty key section. I think a lot of people like it's right smack in the middle. It's such difficult terrain. The end is still so far away. So like having that Pemi section under the belt, and that it's that's in the bag is I think probably a good feeling going in.
Yeah. And I knew, well, I learned that Amber had been training there like pretty exclusively. So she knew that part of the trail like the back of her hand. And so I felt like really comfortable with her. And I also wanted to see it like start to finish in the daylight because I knew that I'd be doing that in the nighttime and I wanted to feel pretty comfortable with it. Um,
Sure.
and I don't think I had done the Ethan Pond section before. So I wanted to see what that was like.
Okay, I haven't been around Ethan Pond since I hiked the AT, which was a long time ago now. But from what I remember, I is the Ethan Pond section actually like kind of chill, like railroad bed,
Yeah,
sort of over to Sealand.
it is like really flat, but there are like rocks and in a non like this summer was super dry, so I think it's usually like pretty wet. I got really lucky that like there was no water whatsoever. But it's not like as runnable as you think it would be for
Hmm.
the lack of vert.
None of it is.
I know,
Uh,
yeah. No free miles.
yeah. Uh, so what was your? Have you run 100 miler before?
I've completed one. I did the Vermont 100 in 2019. And then I DNF'd it in 2022 at mile 76. So I had like some confidence, but not like overwhelming confidence
Sure.
going into
So
this.
yeah, you knew that you could go the 100 mile distance. It's just that, from what I understand, White's 100 and the Vermont 100 are very different terrain.
Mhm. Yeah, Vermont 100 is a lot of like rolling gravel roads and maybe 15 or 16,000 feet of vert. Um, Super runnable. Um, and it was 12 hours faster. So I had never been awake for like 34 hours before. So that was another like piece of uncertainty for me.
So we talked about the lead up a little bit and what the training looked like. Um, how did this differ in sort of your approach from your first 100 miler? What were the big things that you felt like you needed to change in order to do a route like White's 100 that had so few finishes and so many DNFs too?
Yeah, honestly, I think the only thing that differed was mental. Like I trained the same way no matter what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And either, I'm over prepared for the Vermont 100 because I've been training in the whites, or like I'm under prepared, from like just training on roads. So like my weeks throughout the year are pretty consistent. Like I'll take Monday off, I'll do speed work on Tuesday, I'll lift on Wednesday and do like easy runs during the week. And then I'll do a lot of like slower, longer runs or hikes and like try to get some vert in on the weekend. So
Mhm.
like that didn't really change at all. And I don't think I increased my mileage between training for Vermont 100 and training for this. Like I was looking back at my training plan that I made for myself, and my biggest week was 78 miles. Like it wasn't that much. And like in looking back, I'm like kind of uncomfortable with that number because if I saw my plan for somebody else, I would say like you are not prepared to do the White Mountain 100. You should like probably try harder. But it ended up working out. But leading up to this effort, it was a lot of like just committing to it and literally, like, practicing saying it out loud. Like, I told a couple people, and I was really embarrassed. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this thing," and I thought they were gonna laugh at me and be like, "You think you can do this? Absolutely not." Like, so many fit people have tried it and failed. Um, and then over time, I just, like, said it more and more and, like, convinced myself that it was gonna happen and I could do it and was, like, envisioning the trail. And I went out and scoped probably, like, 98% of the route, so I knew what it was gonna look like, and I had full trust in my pacers and support crew, so it was a lot of just, like, thinking about it and, like, building my own confidence.
Yeah. So, that's cool. Did you like, was the FKT the goal from the start? Was it just, I wanna finish and, the time will shake out how it does? What was the mindset going in terms of how fast you wanted to do it?
FKT was not in my vocabulary at all. I just wanted to finish it. I tried to stay super humble and remind myself that, like, nothing is guaranteed. I could be at, like, mile 99 and, like, could fall and break my leg. So, like, even leading up to the effort and during the effort, like, nothing was gonna be handed to me. Um, and I didn't announce that I was going for an FKT because I truly wasn't. I told myself I was going out to get, my PR and put my best effort out there and see what would happen. Um, and when I calculated the pace for, like, a 40-hour effort, because most of the people on that list that German put out were, like, said they were gonna do it in 40 hours, it just seemed to be the common number, so I thought, "Oh, I'll do 40 hours too." And it's, 23 minutes a mile or 22 minutes a mile, and I'm thinking, "I don't know, I've done, like, 8-mile hikes that it's been really difficult to do 22 or 23-minute miles, so I don't know how I'm gonna do that for 100." Um, but yeah, like, uh, 38, 39, 40-hour range was just sort of this pie in the sky goal I put out there, but getting the actual FKT didn't really come into mind until I was on the Kinsmans, I think.
Wow. And so we'll get there, but you like, you beat it by a lot. And then,
Yeah,
did
somehow.
did you was the Kinsman sort of the first time that you even thought about the time? Or, like, did were there any moments earlier on where you were like, "Oh, wow, I'm going faster than I thought I might?"
Yeah, so Joffrey made me a spreadsheet leading up. Like, he put more thought into this whole thing than I did, which I really, am grateful for. And he gave me splits for a 37-hour finish, and I literally laughed at that time. I'm like, "That's nice that you think I can do that. Thank you, friend." Um, but when I got to Pinkham, apparently I was, like, well ahead of that, and then I think I chipped off a little more time as we went, and then was told I lost some time overnight, and then it wasn't till the Kinsmans where I was like, "Well, we don't have that many miles left, and I'm still under it, so now I think I can be under paces and the overall time he gave me in the spreadsheet."
Sure.
I
Wow.
wasn't, like, asking, but people were just, like, telling me, "Oh, you're going
Yeah,
fast. Oh, you're not, like, slowing down. You're doing great." I'm like, "Oh, great. I guess I'll accept that as truth."
yeah. There's unsolicited updates.
Yes.
Did you appreciate those updates? Or, like, I feel like sometimes I feel like sometimes when I get updates about how I'm doing, it gets in my head. Or did you appreciate them?
I appreciated them. I think if someone told me I was going too slow, I wouldn't appreciate it because I don't take,
Sure.
like, negative feedback well, but I take positive feedback well. So yeah, it was appreciated.
Yeah, that's super fair. Okay, so we've talked about the lead up. Let's get to the actual effort. You throw a crew together, because you've got this weather window, but the weather doesn't sound like it was great right at the beginning. What, going over I saw, like, right in your trip report, going over the Wildcats, you had some thunder and lightning. What, uh, was there doubt at that point about, about your choice of timing? what was the mindset early on through that first traverse when the weather wasn't spectacular?
Yeah, well, leading up to it, when I decided to go midweek, I just kinda, like, canceled all of my work meetings and felt, like, pretty unhinged for making this last-minute decision, and my boss reached out to me, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I just need to take some time off, like, for the next 48 hours." Like, starting it, I felt like I was just kind of, like, manic and making this unhinged decision and just, like, I was already committed to it, and I couldn't cancel on my pacers and support crew, so I'm like, "Whatever happens, happens. I just need to start and, like, go until I can't go." So that's the mindset that I was going into the Carter Mariah Wildcat Traverse with. Um, and that traverse went, like, pretty well. Um, but when I was descending the Wildcats, um, yeah, the lightning was directly above us. Like, it was coming through the trees. I'm like, "Chris, are we gonna die?" And he was just like, "Yeah, no, I think it's okay." Like, and he knew that all the weather, like, blows east into Maine, which I guess is true. Like, I believed him. And so it made me feel like it was possible that the weather on the Prezzies was okay. Um, and then after I resupplied at Pinkham, it started to rain pretty hard, like, going up Madison, and that's when I was like, "Man, I am scared of the Prezzies. I don't wanna be there in the rain, like, that's gonna make this miserable." Um, but super luckily, like, literally when we crossed into the Alpine, it was super sunny, like, no wind, dry the rocks dried immediately, and it was a perfect Prezi day, and I felt, like, incredibly safe, and I had, like, JP right behind me, so, like, nothing could go wrong,
Of
and,
course.
um, and then it was, like, perfect weather the rest of the way. Like, I don't think I ever put on a Houdini or gloves. I was wearing, like, a t-shirt and shorts the whole time. Um,
Wow.
so, yeah, that was the only moment of, like, "Oh god, like, this could turn pretty quickly," but I tried to just not think ahead and stay in the moment and trust that, like, the weather could change for the better, not just for the worse.
Yeah, for sure. Were you above the clouds in the Prezzies, or did the valleys clear up too?
I think it was all clear, like, there wasn't an
Hmm.
inversion, so,
Yeah,
yeah, it just, like, cleared up. The weather really did just blow into Maine.
that's really cool. Uh, and so, now I think Washington's what, the four 35, 40 mile point? Is that right?
Maybe.
Somewhere around there. Like, how are you feeling in this sort of, like, early on in the effort? You know, does it feel manageable? Does it feel like, I've got that there's too much? Like, where was your mind space during the Prezzies?
I was really excited on the Prezzies because it was such a beautiful day, and I felt so safe on dry rocks, um, that my headspace was really good, and I was, like, reading my notes before this to try to remind myself what it felt like during the effort, and I wrote to myself that I felt, amazing for the first 70 miles and had, like, no burn, like, no lactic acid, like, no heavy breathing or I had heavy breathing, but, like, no, like, heavy chest or anything. Um,
Mhm.
so, yeah, at that point, I felt, um, really great. The like, mantra that I was saying to myself throughout the whole effort, which I was certainly saying in the Prezzies, was, "Stay here." And, like, don't think ahead. Don't think about, like, the 40 miles you just did. Don't think about the 60 miles you have ahead. Like, I can run from Washington to, like, Lake of the Clouds. I've done that so many times before. I feel very comfortable doing that. I have a friend behind me. I have, like, water. I have sugar in my pocket. Like, nothing can go wrong. Just, like, stay right here. And that helped me in, some of the moments of, like, panic that happens, in the PEMI. I'm like, "I can do this." Like, I'm literally walking. I can walk. Like, this isn't hard. Um, yeah, there were times that I got kind of panicked, but, repeating that to myself kept me as calm as possible.
What, uh what do you feel like? panicked you in those moments?
Like, "Oh my god, what am I doing? I can't believe I committed to this." The wheels are probably gonna come off at some point, like, when is it gonna happen? What's it gonna feel like? Am I gonna
Mm,
recover from that? Like, "Oh my gosh, I told Alyssa Godesky she needs to leave work and go to the 93 bike path in a couple hours. Like, I can't believe I wasted her time. She's gonna be waiting there. I'm never gonna make it." Like, those kinds of things.
yeah, yeah,
Or,
sort
like,
of
I could
spiraling. Sorry, go ahead.
I could get injured at any moment, and, like, how am I gonna deal with that?
Right. Yeah, sort of what could happen. It's really, I mean, it is really difficult because especially once you've like, I feel like it's almost better mentally if something goes wrong in the first 10 miles because,
Mhm.
like, once you've sunk so much into by the time you get to the Pemby, you're at mile 60 or 65 or whatever, and you're like, you've burned so many matches already. You won't like, if something goes wrong, you can't just bounce right back from it. Um, yeah, it's a tough mental spot, but it sounds like you had some really good methods of sort of grounding yourself and, like, staying in the, uh yeah, staying in the present, as it were.
Yeah. It's just your run-of-the-mill anxiety. It never leaves.
Ugh, I feel you. Um, cool, so it sounds like the Prezi went relatively smoothly, and then, the Pemi, outside of those, well, I guess where did the sun set for you? When did the night start?
The sun set on Webster Cliff. Yeah, I remember the light being exceptionally beautiful in the Prezzies, and then a beautiful sunset on Webster Cliff, and then just got dark when we were below all of those, like, rocks, and it got a little bit more runnable, so perfect timing.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Um,
And I
and
had
so
scoped
you're
out sorry.
no, you're
I had
good.
scoped out Webster Cliff, like a week or 2 before, because several people told me how terrifying it was, and I'm like, "Man, I really need to see this on my own, before the effort because I think I'm gonna be here in the dark." Uh, and when I scoped it out, I was like, "Oh, this is a regular old White Mountain trail, like, there's nothing crazy here," so I felt a little bit more confident going into that section.
Good, that's nice, yeah. Yeah, it is like, I mean, I feel like there th I remember I paced Jack through there on his section, and I just remember there being a couple spots where I, like, wasn't entirely sure where the trail was.
Mhm.
Um, Specifically, like, yeah, like, right after Jackson, I think. There are some spots where it, like, pops out into a clearing, and it's like, "Where's" but but, yeah, it's like you said, it's pretty standard White Mountains fare, like, uh, nothing too insane.
Yeah, I was worried, like, based on what people said, that I was gonna, like, fall off this cliff, after dark, but, like, that wasn't gonna happen, so,
Yeah,
yeah, it wasn't too bad, but you're right, there's a couple places where it opens up, and then people have done a really nice job of lining the trail with rocks. You kinda get, like, corralled into the right place.
that's nice. Uh, and so, yeah, you get down, how long are your stops, when you get down to Pinkham Notch or you get down to, 302, how much time are you spending there?
I spent a handful of minutes at Pinkham. I think I spent 7 or 8 minutes at 302, which I regret. I wish that was, like, it could have been, like, 30 seconds, um but Joe had just gone through, so, like, his parents were there, his wife was there, Drummond, Hillary, and Squall were there, so, like, there was a lot of excitement and a lot of reason to, like, stop, um, and so if I were to save a couple of minutes, it definitely would have been there.
Sure.
Um, at 93, I don't know, like 2 minutes, and at Moosilauke, like, probably less than 2 minutes, I was, like, ready to go.
Wow, so you
So
kept
not too
your
much
resupplies
stopping.
very short.
I mean, there's nothing to do. I just, like, needed stuff, right?
I guess so. I feel like when you start getting zonked and tired, it's just so easy to sit down and let people take care of you, but it's quite impressive that you're able to keep the breaks that short when you're 90 miles into the Whites 100.
Yeah, I mean, I felt fine though. So, like, it didn't really
Y
hurt until I was coming down Mushalock.
Sure.
Um, and I gave all of my, like, support people just, like, a box of, food and, like, ibuprofen or whatever. And when I got to 93, Alyssa had brought a chair, which was, like, really thoughtful, but I was like, "Oh, I haven't sat down in 24 hours. I guess I'll, like, sit down to be polite." But then I sat down, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I need to get back up." And then she was really good about, like, getting me out quickly because she has
Good,
so much
good.
experience.
Yeah. The, that's very interesting. So the Pemmy's at night, it's a mental low, um, perhaps. Like, how did you pull yourself out of the mental low? Like, did you need any was there anything on top of sort of the centering thoughts that you did, like music or talking to your pacers or what have you, like to sort of pull yourself through it?
I don't do music on trail. I never have. I, like, never will. I think it's too distracting, and I would probably trip
Mm,
immediately. Um But Joffrey came in super prepared. I could tell that he had, like, mentally practiced for, pacing, and he was, like, ready with, like, stories to entertain me, and he was trying to get me to laugh, and I don't think I had the energy at that point to really respond, but, like, I appreciated his effort. Um, and I had so much adrenaline coming out of 302 because I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, Drummond knows my name." Like, I got to pet Squall. I just, like, drank some Coke and I'm, like, feeling on top of the world. And that lasted for, like, a couple miles and then, dipped a little bit. Um, but I'm trying to remember my mindset. Joffrey stopped at Zealand Hut to fill up my water, so I was alone for, I don't know, half a mile or three-quarters of a mile. I ended up, like, PRing from Zealand for the next, like, mile segment or whatever it is on Strava. So
nice.
I was somehow, like, amped up, but I think it's because I was scared because I was alone and I eventually I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, is Joffrey coming back? Like, I don't wanna be here." I had nightmares leading up to the effort about being in the Pemi in the dark
Mm.
alone. Like, I would wake up in my bed and be like, "Oh my god, I don't wanna be in the Pemi right now. I can't do this." And so, yeah, that brought me some adrenaline. Um, but I don't know, the night passed pretty quickly, Like, I usually go to bed at, like, midnight or, like, 1 AM, so there's really
Mhm.
only, like, 1 AM to 4 or 5 when the sun's starting to come back that is, like, really nighttime, and that's kind of a short amount of time. Um, so yeah, we just kept moving. There definitely were some moments of panic where I just repeated, stay here, like, you're walking, you can do this, like, you're safe, you chose to be here, like, everything's fine, you're not at work right now, like, it's not stressful."
Sure.
Um, and this we got some morning light as we came over Garfield. So then you're like, "Well, I'm in a new day, like, this is exciting. There's nothing to worry about."
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how a new day will just completely change things.
Yeah, and it was really pretty coming over Frank Ridge, like, there was this, like, deep red in the sky, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm happy to be here."
And for I would imagine, uh well, I guess I'm just assuming, I would imagine that you're more acquainted with the Western whites than the Eastern whites just based on where we live and all that, but was that fair to say, or do you like, where do you I don't know. I just like growing up in Western Maine, I always sort of felt like the Eastern whites, the Prezzies, was like where I felt most at home, and I've always been more nervous in the Pemi than I have been on the Prezi, but I wonder where you look at if you have a place in the whites that you sort of look at as like home base and like yes, I feel I feel comfortable here.
Moosilauke is definitely home base, and that was drawing me in for the last several hours, and once I got there, I was like, "Oh, home turf. Got this. I know exactly what this looks like." Um But I've also done the Carter Mariah Wildcat Ridge many times, so I felt very comfortable with that. Um, Frank Ridge is popular that's super popular, so I felt comfortable there. Um, the Prezzies, I'm always just kinda nervous. Um,
It's fair.
so maybe a little less comfortable and, like, that section between, uh, like, Zealand and Garfield is a little less traveled for me. So I knew every part of that, but I hadn't had as much experience on it. Um, and earlier in the year, probably like May of last year, I did the full Kinsman Ridge Trail as an out and back with Joffrey as he was training for his Direttissima. So that was like a 31-mile day, and I got to experience that totally pointless section between 112 and Kinsman's uh, twice. So that was a little bit fresher in my mind, and I felt like pretty comfortable. But Moosilauke is definitely like home base for me because it's the closest peak to my house.
Yeah, for sure. That's I feel like knowing that Kinsman section is such a big leg up because I feel like people sleep on it and then they get there and it's a brutal section that descent off of South Kinsman and that what is it like Mount Wolf
Mount
or
Wolf.
whatever's in there. Yeah. What well we'll get there, but so you get some sunlight on Garfield. I'm imagining like sun's up once you get to Franconia Ridge. Um, how how are you feeling at this point, and what is the what's the mindset as you uh there's well, I think one of the most runnable sections of the Whites 100 is sort of Lafayette down the ridge, and then I mean Liberty Spring is rocky, but like pretty consistent. How did you feel going down that?
Um, I think I was pretty fuzzy at that point. Like I had drank probably half a soda or like a full soda between like 1 a.m. and 10 a.m. And I took a 200 milligram caffeine pill. So I was like staying awake, but I was like a little fuzzy. So I don't know. If you ask Joffrey, he'll probably say I was going like kind of slow on that section, and he was definitely leading at that point. So I don't remember running particularly fast down Liberty Springs. Um, but once I resupplied at 93, I was like good to go. And kind
Mhm.
of rebounded. I think I just needed um like a few more calories at that point, and I had made myself ramen for all of the road crossings, and that was like the game changer and like brought me back to life. So I just needed to get like 30 minutes ahead to the bike path and refuel a bit.
Quick break from the episode to tell you guys about the last sponsor for this week, and that is Janji. Janji is a through hiking, backpacking, trail running clothing brand. They make really high quality running stuff, really high quality apparel and gear and accessories. Lately, I've been really rocking their wind and rain gloves. They're like a pair of really warm running gloves that have a wind and rain proof mitten that you can put over it and it stows away. They're super light, super warm. I've used them all the way down into the teens and they keep my hands super dry and super warm. So I've been really digging Janji. I have a bunch of their stuff outside of the mittens as well. Their half tights, their split shorts have been really good for me. So if you want to try out Janji, head on over to their website, which is in the show notes. Use code from the backcountry. That's all one word for 10% off your entire order. And at checkout, tell them we sent you. That really helps out. Really helps out the podcast. That's it, guys. Let's get on back over to Cara for the rest of our conversation about the White Mountains 100. Yeah, sure. That's pretty fair. Well, we haven't talked about yet. I love talking about fueling strategies. Like, what were you doing out there? You mentioned having some sugar in your pocket, but like, what does that look like for you? And how much were you taking down per hour? Um, I know some people sort of feel their way through what they're eating, while others have a very regimented sort of plan. Yeah, what did it look like for you?
I'm not that regimented, much to Joffrey's dismay. He also, like, made me a spreadsheet for food, and it had, like, weight and carbs and all this stuff, and I was like, "I don't know, do Rice Krispies have carbs?" Like, I don't know. And I also I saw people in the Tour de France, like, eating Rice Krispies, and I was like, "Okay, that's great, like, that sounds yummy, like, I'll buy some," and then I bought a box and just, like, ate them on my couch. I'm like, "Okay, how about we buy something that you're not gonna eat in your house?" Um, but last year was probably the first year that I started thinking about nutrition a little more seriously. Like everyone's talking about carbs. It's a whole money-making industry. And I'm like, what's all the hype about? Why don't we just eat like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? But once I started using them, I realized that they actually work. So now I'm a proponent for carbs. um, 'Cause, like, before that, my friends can vouch that I would eat, like, a lot of baby food on hikes because they come in, like, these nice pouches, and they're, like, really cute, and they have, like, 100 calories, but they're not, particularly, like, high carb. So I've
Sure.
leaned away from that, um, and I started buying precision products. So I really like their, 90-gram goos and their drink mix. I think the drink mix has uh sodium, which is great, but the pouches don't. So I had to supplement with
Mhm.
element when I took those. Um, but I did a Prezi with Joffrey. Um, I think it was maybe like January 1st of 2025. Anyway, we like did a Prezi and I was bonking and he handed me one of the 90-gram carbs and I ate it in like 5 seconds and he turned around and he was like, "Oh, how do you like it?" I was like, "Oh, I'm done." He was like, "Wait, you're not supposed to eat the whole thing at one time. Like, good luck to your stomach." But my stomach was fine. So that kind of gave me a green light to, you know, buy them and keep using them. So that was like my
Yeah.
main calories was like the big pouches and then supplementing with like the drink mix and sodium. Um and then I had element and then I ate a lot of pierogies. Um my friend Steve who uh did the New Hampshire 48 in under 4 days in 2022, super awesome athlete. He put me onto pierogies and I really like them. Like, they go down really easily, they have a lot of calories, there's, like, a little salt from the cheese, they're, like, easy to digest. So I ate a lot of those and ramen at the road crossings, and I think I brought other snacks like Oreos and stuff, but that stuff didn't taste good, like, pretty early on, so I just kept it pretty basic, and luckily
Sure.
my stomach held up and I didn't get nauseous, and I just was, like, you know, downing, precision goos up until the end.
There is definitely something to pierogies on trail.
They work.
I'd never done it before, but hearing you do it and like John Kelly was inhaling pierogies on his AT attempt. Maybe pierogies are the next high carb craze.
I know, they're pretty great. I don't usually, like, buy that kinda stuff, but I went to Hannaford and I was like, "Okay, am I gonna be this person that just, like, buys frozen, like, store-bought, like, pierogies?" And, you know, I tried not to eat them outside of running, but they worked really well while I was running, so can't complain.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so did you notice any? I mean, obviously you're using that stuff so it works, but the I I like there's something lost about the beauty of going for a hike and eating a good old fashioned like PB&J or like solid food. Like I feel like spiritually we do lose something by eating gels and drink mixes that like you couldn't, that are not real food. And yet the stuff just works. Like
I know.
un- unfortunately.
It's almost
Um
disappointing, like, I don't wanna support this industry, like, it's making a healthy activity, like, unhealthy, but, like,
mm,
also I want to not bonk while I'm in the Prezzies, so
Sure.
You got to give in at some point.
When you say unhealthy, like, do you think the amount of carb people are taking in is, like, unhealthy even if you're exercising?
I mean, you're burning it while you're exercising. I do often wonder if I'm like giving myself diabetes, but I, like
Sure.
I don't know enough about medicine to know like what's going on behind the scenes. Um, but it's winter now, and on my hikes, like I'm not eating those gels because I'm not doing anything that intense. So it's really just like concentrated in the summer where like I'm eating a lot of them. But if you're hiking a lot and you're going out like 2 to 3 days a week and you have like several gels each hike, you're kind of eating a lot of junk food a week. And not that I never eat junk food, like I totally do, but I prefer to have less of that in my diet. So I'm always kind of torn between like, I know this is gonna work and, it's already in my closet. I paid for it. I might as well eat it. And, you know, my body doesn't actually need this. And I bet Bill Tidd's not eating this. And I want to be like Bill Tidd.
Bill Tidd, what is he doesn't do a lot of precision, but he definitely does well, he definitely uses, I think mainly he uses Morton and, Perpetuum for big efforts. So he'll use the powdered stuff and gels on big efforts. However, I will say Bill Tidd is a big proponent of, like, fasted long runs, I
Mm.
which is something that I don't do a lot of because it's so miserable, but, we'll like, he and I will go out for a run, and he won't eat anything for the first, like, 8 hours. Like, "What? How are you alive right now?"
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, I don't it is just like, "Yeah, I'm just, fasting." Like, "Okay."
Wow.
I'm
I
working
need to ask him more about that. I feel like for runs, 2 hours is my limit without food. And for a hike, it's probably like 3 or 4, but I don't
Mhm.
think I would ever consider going 8 hours without eating.
It supposedly works to better your, fat oxidation. Uh, who knows? I've read mixed things about that, but what are you gonna do? Uh,
Works for him. Every time I see him,
it's
I'm just like amazed by his, like, you can see the health and fitness like glowing out of his skin. He looks amazing. And I'm always like, what are you eating? And I do think he eats like really well when he's not doing these efforts. Like he told me
yes.
it's I'm pretty sure he's a vegan and eats like a lot of like fruits and vegetables and all that stuff. Um but like will give in to the goose while he's running.
Yeah. I think he's not fully vegan, but his wife is fully vegan, and so
Oh, okay.
he mostly eats vegan stuff, but, like, I went over to his house the other day and we had eggs and stuff. So he's not
Okay.
fully vegan, but I guess, like, he just sort of falls into the mostly vegan camp because his wife makes food for him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, man.
but yeah, he is no, that those 2 have certainly found the fountain of youth.
Mhm. Yeah, I just wanna be
Anyway,
close to it.
yeah, fair. You're right. We don't need to, like, have all the secrets, just some of them.
Yep.
Uh, in any case, you cross the road, beautiful tunnel under 93. Alyssa gives you a brief sit before you continue on. Um, and now you're up into the Kinsmans. Uh, like I said before, that seems like a crux spot for a lot of people going southbound or westbound or whatever you want to call it. And because I think the Kinsmans are just sneakily very difficult. Where were you smelling the barn at that point, or where was your head at?
I was trying to stay in the moment and realize that it was still pretty far from the finish, but I do remember reading Austin Black's race report, and he said once he crossed 93 and got up into the Kinsmans, he was like, "Barring injury, I'm gonna finish this." And so I had that in the back of my mind, like, I think this is gonna happen. I don't know if I'm gonna slow down or the wheels are gonna come off or whatever, but I think I can do this, so just keep going. Um, and Amber and Chase Hall took me over the Kinsmans, which was, amazing. They have so much energy.
Yeah.
And I think that was maybe my second time hanging out with Amber ever. And my first time meeting Chase. Like, I remember getting to the bike path and, like, introducing myself and being like, trying to, manage his expectations, like, "Hey, this is probably gonna be slow." Like, I'm many miles into this, like 80 miles into this. Um, but she had me running for the first mile or 2 up to Lonesome because it's so, like, gradual and smooth. And
Mhm.
I was sort of able to do that. Like, I was kind of impressed with my legs being able to run, but it also, like, really started to burn. But we were, like, moving pretty well. Um, got up to Lonesome. Someone asked if I was doing a hut traverse, and I was like, "No." Um, actually, this guy on the Prezi, um, when I was with JP, he was like, "Are you doing a Prezi traverse?" And I, like, didn't really have the energy to give him a real answer, and I just said, "No, longer." And he goes, "Are you doing the AT?" I'm like, "Sir, I have a vest on." Like, "No." But I just said, "No, shorter." So some people were, like, curious why I was drenched in sweat and looking a little, uh, crazy on the trail. But, yeah, going up the Kinsmans, I also love that part of the trail, because that's also pretty close to my house, so I've done that section many times. So that was pretty great, and then once we started coming off South Kinsman, you always think it's closer than it is, so I, like, got
Mhm.
excited, and then a couple miles later, I was, like, not excited. Um there's some trail sign that I thought it was probably 2 miles from the road, and it said 7 miles, and I think I was just cursing and like, "Are you gotta be kidding me. Like, how like, what does this trail include that lasts 7 miles?" I can't even, like, picture, like, what is going on in the next 7 miles. Um, but yeah, that section was okay. It was just way longer than I feel like it should have been. Um But yeah, nothing major to report. I was getting, like, pretty tired. I remember, um, just, like, stopping a handful of times and, like, putting my hands on my knees and being like, "Wow, this is really long," and, like, catching my breath and, like, going up some of the boulders before North Kinsman and just, like, taking a step and, like, hanging there for a second to let the lactic acid kinda fade and, like, getting just a little relief from the burn. And I was really embarrassed because I was hiking with Chase for the first time, and I'm like, "Man, this guy's gonna think I'm, like, totally unathletic. I'm going so slowly right now." But they were, like, really encouraging and did such a great job pacing. So it was
That's
okay.
super cool. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure he, understood that you were, like, at this point, 85 miles into a ridiculously difficult effort, like, a
Yeah.
little leg burn is to be expected here.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was also kind of confusing because the efforts I had seen before, everyone had a different distance on their Strava. So I
yeah.
didn't know if it was a 90-mile route or a 112-mile route. Like, I knew it wasn't going to be 100, but I didn't know how much I had left. And that added to the confusion of like, am I going to get the record or not? Because I couldn't figure out paces, right, without the mileage. And,
Yeah.
I was asking Amber, like, am I slowing down? Do I still have that lead that I got on Cartamariah Wildcat? And she probably gave me a clear answer, but I didn't understand it. So I was like really confused, um, and couldn't really start counting down because I didn't know if I had, 10 miles left or like 15 miles left.
Right. Oh, that's really interesting. Uh, right, because I mean, like, sitting here now, you could logic out that, well, it's not like 5 miles left or 25 miles left. It's like the error the error shrinks, so it's really like, do I have, I don't know, 13 miles left or 17 miles left? But when you're when you're that far in and you haven't slept and you're exhausted, like, it's impossible to think like that.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, that's brutal. And so at what point did you actually start to get some clarity about where you were and how much you had left?
Probably pretty close to 112. I don't know if there's another trail sign that says, like, 2 or 3 miles to go, but I knew that I was, like, getting closer. And so I had an idea of how long it was from Beaver Brook to 25, and I just added, like, a couple miles to that, and then got a little bit clearer about being able to get the record. Um, and then at that point, I was like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna be pretty close to 35 hours." And the next fastest time on the list was Austin's time, which is unsupported and obviously not comparable and a completely different effort. And um but still it gave me a time to like work towards, and he did 34 like 45 or something like that. So I was like, okay, well, what if I like beat that? That'd be pretty cool.
Sure. Yeah,
So that helped me. I don't know if I like picked it up, but it helped give me some energy.
right.
And also just getting closer to Moosalok. I was so excited the whole time to get to Moosalok. I love that mountain so much, and I knew as soon as I stepped foot on Beaver Brook, like, I was in the clear and I would have enough energy to get me through and, like, nothing bad could happen. And I
Sure.
wasn't gonna be in the dark, I didn't wanna, like, see another sunset, and I think Joffrey had my headlamp, so, like, it could have been bad.
And, uh, and so did that pan out? Like, when you got to Beaver Brook, did you feel that wonderful sense of "I've made it" that you expected to have?
Totally, I was so excited. And my friend, John Malinsky met me there, and he had never done Beaverbrook before, and we, like, tried and failed many times to, like, do that part of the trail together, and so it was pretty nice to be able to do that together for his first time, like, during this effort. Um, and I scarfed down some ramen at that crossing, and, Amber and Chase handed me off to John, and I just, like, started running. And, he was also super prepared and, like, trying to tell me stories and keep me engaged, but at that point, I didn't have any energy to put towards talking, so, um, I just, focused on the trail. I had a little bit of apprehension going up that first mile up Beaver Brook towards the shelter because I've bonked there so many times in training before,
Mm.
but it was like a normal amount of fatigue. Like I was able to do the climb without, stopping or worrying too much. And that was a relief. And then once we got closer to the summit, I was like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. Like I'm so happy to be here.
How were the conditions on Moosilauke?
Perfect. Low
Wonderful.
wind, sunny, dry, warm. I had John behind me, Chris Daly and Sarge were waiting for me on Glencliff. My friends were going to be at the finish. Like it was just, a dream scenario. Um, and going up Glencliff, um, I learned afterwards that it was Zan, who I've never met before, but he wrote like a message in the sand for me. He said like, "Go, Cara, Z." And I read it, and I was, like, really confused. I'm like, "Is this for me?" And then I found out afterwards that it was, and I just thought that was incredibly thoughtful because we were, like, sharing this experience on the White Mountain 100, with this guy who I've never met, and he, knew I was gonna be out there. He, like, went to the mountain. He wrote this message knowing I was gonna see it, and I just felt, like, really supported. And I also knew that, like, people were watching the tracker. I heard that, Almond was posting about this. So I knew that people were like behind the scenes, like thinking about me and supporting me. And that also gave me a ton of energy.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's I mean, it's a pretty special community, and they
Yeah.
like, people really rally around, what people when they're doing cool stuff, and this was, like, such a cool breakthrough for the route, I think. Uh,
Yeah.
mm,
And I had spent like a lot of time last summer pacing other people in their efforts. So I spent um a lot of time looking at, those blue dots on the Garmin tracker. And this was my first time being a blue dot. So I was literally picturing the map in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's still out there. She's still going. Like, go, Carrie, go. And I was like cheering for myself in my head. And I tried not to look at my phone much during the effort, but like every couple of hours, I would take my phone out and just like look at these supportive messages and get like a whole new rush of adrenaline. So doing a supported effort um, was really special to me.
yeah. Yeah, it's so special. You get to, like, share, you get to share the effort more, but, like, via social media and all that stuff, but yeah, like you said, all you get to spend it with the people on the trail and, like, the people who you trained with and have made it happen. It's just, uh yeah, there's something about the supportive stuff that's just so cool and makes such great memories.
Hmm.
So tell me about the end of the trail. You're screaming down, Glencliff. Yeah, you're screaming down Glencliff. Uh, my understanding, I think, it's that it's the second tallest climb or second largest climb on the AT going northbound, which means it's the second largest descent going southbound, outside of like Katahdin. So it's a big descent. It's a true VK. Um, and you're on like 99-mile legs at that point. How was the finish?
Really exciting. So I got to the summit. I was like running across the, ridge. Um, Somewhere at the top of Glencliff, ran into Chris Daly and Sarge and still had John with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is great. Home turf, beautiful day, friends behind me, friends in front of me. Like I've trained on Glencliff countless times. This is an ideal scenario. And like I'm gonna get the record. Let's see how much time I can shave off. Um, so like the top of Glencliff is like kind of technical and I didn't want to fall. So I took that um, pretty carefully. But then, the bottom 2 miles are very runnable. So I was like, okay, time to trash your body. Like if you're gonna get injured, here's the place. Um, and at that point, my knees and my feet were kind of in a lot of pain. And I just remember
Mm.
making like a lot of noises and going like, ooh, ah, ouch, oh my God, like with every breath. um, but yeah, went pretty well. At the bottom of Glencliff where the ET turns off, my friends Emily and Drew were there, so we picked up some more people in the crew.
Yep.
Um, and in my head, I was like trying to remember that there's an extra mile and a half after Glencliff, so like I can't um I couldn't run with like reckless abandon down to Glencliff
Right.
because then I would still have like, 15 minutes left or whatever. But I saved maybe like 1% of my energy for the last bit. Um and yeah, ran the last like that mile and a half section and crossed the river. I think my last full mile was my fastest mile. It was like 9 flat. Um, so I was pretty proud of that. I think my last mile of the Vermont 100 was also like a 9 flat and my fastest mile. So, I felt really good about the finish. Um, and then crossed the river and my boyfriend Matt was there and like, sprayed champagne on me and there was like music. Um, and yeah, it was great. Like Chase and Amber were there. They had like, White Mountain 100 balloons. My friends Leah and Annie came with like pizza and flowers, and it just felt like really special. We were there on like a Thursday afternoon, middle of the week, sitting on the ground on the side of 25 with cars like whizzing by, and we all sort of chose to be there at the same time celebrating this like kind of arbitrary effort. And so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty special finish. W
Yeah.
what have you I always find it interesting how sort of the narrative of an effort or an experience changes in our minds over time. And I'm wondering, now that you're a few months out from it, like how has your perception of your effort changed? Does it like does uh I don't at least the pattern that I found in myself is that right when I finish, it's hard to feel much of anything because you're so tired. And then once you rest up, you just feel like pumped about what I just did. And then weeks go on and it's like, then you start poking holes in everything. Like how have you felt, sort of weeks and months out from it now?
I'll walk you through it. The last couple months have been a total roller coaster. Um, First of all, immediately when I finished, I had so much adrenaline. And it's kind of funny because I had like a lot of emotions going on internally and felt like I was on like the verge of tears. And then I look at video of me finishing and I look like I just, you know, am like walking down the street with like nothing going on in my brain. I just like look totally um uninterested. Um but then, like, the adrenaline started to wear off and, like, my knees are throbbing and it feels like I broke all 10 of my toes and, like, the pain is radiating. Um, and I had a lot of adrenaline for probably a couple of weeks. Um, I remember Joffrey texting me 48 hours later and asking, how's the come down? Are you doing okay? Like people often feel like pretty blue after big efforts. And I'm like, Joffrey, I'm on cloud nine. Like this is my Olympics. I feel so great about myself. Like I'm never gonna be sad again. This is amazing. And and then probably 2 weeks after that, I texted him. I was like, Joffrey, I'm in a hole. This is not good. Like I don't want to like I am not happy.
Oh
um
no.
so yeah, the come down because I like got so amped, the come down was like extra big.
Yeah.
Um, and I always feel, kind of awful in October and November anyway, like most people in shoulder season. And, it's getting colder in the upper valley and the days are getting shorter and I've got nothing on the calendar. Um, so that was pretty rough. But I'll say like right after the effort, I think I went on a run like 3 days later and was like pushing my friend's stroller and like, the swelling had gone away. It like felt pretty good. And then I finished on Thursday and then on Tuesday I went to track with my running club and
Mhm.
did, 800s at low 6-minute pace, like felt pretty on top of the world. Um, but yeah, then like was kind of in rough shape after that. Like not doing too much, maybe like, 20 or 30 miles a week. Um, And that was a time of year that a lot of endurance efforts were going on in the weights. So, a week later, Amber does her Weight Mountain 200. So I'm like, on one hand, like incredibly stoked for her. And I like went out and did like the Musalak section with her. Um, and then on the other hand, I'm like, what I did was just peanuts. Like, this was my peak and it was only, 95, 100 miles. And she's out here doing like 190, 200 miles. Like, who am I? Um, and what else happened? Bubba's, obviously, some huge inspiring efforts. Um, Rut Fest, like the Mount of Scutney vertical backyard race. People were doing the long trail. There's just so much stuff going on that I got really in my head and I was like,
Mm.
man, like I am not like these people. I am not a hardo. Like I don't want to do these things, but I'm like comparing myself to these people. So I was like in a hole for quite a bit. And only in the last like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I've kind of climbed out of it and I'm like excited about hiking again. So
Good.
kind of a
I'm
roller
glad to hear.
coaster.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely a roller coaster. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you're sort of pulling yourself back out of it now, but it's really hard. I feel like it's so natural uh to compare ourselves to others, and it's like such a dangerous game because, well, one, because FKTs are like inherently so subjective. And it's like making any sort of one-to-one comparison even on the same route is like really difficult, and much less like across different routes and different efforts and different times. Um, that said, it's like, you know, where it's the same sport, quote unquote, and so, I think the natural inclination is to compare, and, like, I've definitely done that. Xander and I just spent a whole episode comparing people for no good reason. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's hard. It is really hard.
Yeah, and, like I said going into this, I wasn't going for the FKT, and so I wasn't comparing myself to anyone else. I'm going out here to show myself that I can do this, and whatever time I get is fine, and finishing is perfectly acceptable. But yeah, afterwards, I was like, everyone in my life and in my social media is doing things that are more extreme than I am, and I need to separate myself from that. So, like, I didn't go to Bubba's, I didn't go to Rutfest, like, I couldn't even bring myself to
Mm.
go cheer, and, I am inspired by those people, and I am really supportive, and I'm, like, cheering from you from under my covers, Um, but I also needed to, like, create some separation and be like, "That's not my goal." Like, it's okay if this 100 is my peak. It's okay if something inspires me, next year and I go for that, but, like, I'm not doing this for other people, and I don't need to do a 200, and, you know, it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a healthy headspace to get into for sure. Um, and I mean, I'll say just like again, not to compare, but like being one of, at the time, you're one of less than like 10 people to ever finish the Lights 100, and fastest female ever, still fastest female ever. Like what you did was really incredible. So I just don't want you to like downplay what you did. It was pretty insane. Um,
Thank you. But
yeah,
I'm also, like, trying to be I I am super humble about it because there are so many people that can go out and do that faster, they just haven't done it yet. So, like, I have 0 doubts that in 2026 that time will go down, and that's, like, perfectly okay because I will always have that experience and that excitement, and
yeah,
that's, like, why I did it. So, I'm, like, super stoked for the next person that gets the fastest time.
yeah. That's awesome. Cool. So one thing we didn't talk about, this is not Whites 100 related at all, but I just want to hear about tell the folk, maybe there's someone listening to this right now who just moved to the Upper Valley or is get trying to get into the
Mm.
community. Tell us about the running groups up here. Where can people get involved in, like, all the people who are outside of the Upper Valley right now are just turning off the podcast, but the Upper Valley is such a vibrant running community, and you're very involved in some of those groups and some of those like Tuesday night track and all that stuff. So yeah, tell the folks about it.
Yeah, shout out to the Upper Valley Running Club. I am a walking advertisement. Yeah, I'm like a co-president. I've been part of the club for 10 or 11 years at this point. And it's like mostly focused on like 5K runs and stuff like that, but there's a lot of ultra runners in it, and we're super welcoming. So anyone in the Upper Valley should come to our Tuesday night workouts or Saturday morning runs or pizza nights. You've come to several workouts, which is always fun to see an ultra runner on the track. Um,
Yeah,
but
not as
yeah,
many as I should, but also painful for me.
yeah. Well, especially when Jack's telling you to do like 5 by 1 mile at 5K pace, like that's kind of a lot.
It's yeah, I'm not doing that anymore.
As
What
the person who comes up with the workouts, I will not make you do more than 4 miles worth of work.
Thank God. And right now, this time of year, are those are around Occam?
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Where
we're
can
out there
people
when it's
find?
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, we're out there when it's, 0 degrees or snowing or icy, so every week throughout the year.
Amazing. Where can people find like the schedule of events?
We have a website, Upper Valley Running Club. dot org.
Does something.
And um or you can message me and I'll tell you about it.
Amazing. And speaking of which, where can the people find you? Where can people follow your adventures?
I'm on Strava, Cara Baskin. Um, and on Instagram, I think it's underscore Cara Anonymous. But you might be disappointed in what you find on Instagram. I don't post much. Mostly just like shaky running videos.
Yeah, I love a good shaky running video. Um, is there anything about the Whites 100 that we missed or that you wanna mention before we wrap up here?
I need to give an extra shout out to my pacers and support people. Um, like they really amped me up before the effort and like made me think that I could do it. And they put a lot of like mental preparation into it. I mean, Chris Daly, he had agreed to do I think like Pinkham up to Washington or something. And then at 6 p.m. the night before I went at 6 a.m., I was like, actually, Chris, can you do the whole Carter Mariah Wildcat range? Because I don't have anyone. Like, I thought I was just going to start alone. And then Joffrey was like, why would you start alone? You can't carry all your stuff, or you shouldn't. And on 12 hours notice, he was like, yeah, sure, I'll be there whenever you want. So like
Wow.
just a godsend, right? And that saved me so much energy. And he like filled up my flasks at Carter Hut. And he was really prepared. Like, I'm pretty sure he had physical notes. He was like, the next junction is, 5.5 miles away. There's this much like, there's going to be this many pitches. How are you doing? What can I do for you? Um, so like really prepared. And, JP, like you said, he got me a place to stay the night before. When he gave me a ride in the morning. When I got to Rattle River, um, my Garmin was like 30% charged. I borrowed Joffrey's Garmin. I didn't know how to use it. I like didn't even know how to turn it on. And JP was like, this isn't charged. What? Like, let me go home and charge it. I'll give it to you at Pinkham. I'm like, thank you. My mom will really appreciate that. Um, and he brought me, baked goods and at Pinkham and, spent the whole day in the Prezzies with me and was just like really supportive leading up. And Joffrey, has a full-time job. He's got a family and 2 kids. And on a Wednesday night during the week, pulled an all-nighter to carry all of my stuff and like keep me calm and like engaged and laughing and wouldn't let me carry anything but like one flask. Um, and I just can't thank these people enough. And like Alyssa taking time out of her day, like I knew she wasn't going to be late. She would have everything I need, and Amber and Chase and um John and all my friends at the finish line. So it was a very supported effort, and I'm not gonna forget any part of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. It was a pleasure as always. Um, well, I'll have to I'll have to get out on the road soon on Tuesday. Uh,
Yes, come
to,
to
to
Occam.
come to Occam. Yeah, sounds fantastic. Uh, sweet. Well, yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Will. Thanks for having me.
All right, peace, everybody.